Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening. Max was trying to tell that it would be almost impossible for him to find Nicole even if he went there. I'm going there, no matter what. Jared needed to see her body even if she was dead. He could not just give up on her like that. His grandfather patted the back of his hand sadly. I know this is difficult for you to accept, but it is the reality. Zane has consulted with the experts, and Nicole may have already died, and her body was probably washed away by the water. They initially thought that Jared would be able to recall some of his memories, but their hope gradually fell apart as days passed. I don't care. I've got to go. He refused to believe that Nicole would leave him. Nicole had been such a tough person, and she could always find a solution to everything. Jared thought to himself, this is impossible. We're going to get married. Yet she left me? Jared could not believe it. Daniel realized that Jared was not able to recall anything as he looked at Gloria, who had been weak for a few days, and said, Gloria, let's leave the rest to Jared. We should head back and give him some space. Gloria was extremely reluctant, but she knew staying was not going to change anything. So, she bit her lip and said to Jared and Mr. Johnston Sr., Jared, Mr. Johnston Sr., Nicole is now in your hands. Even though they knew that the chances of finding her were slim, they still held onto a glimmer of hope. Sure. Mr. Johnston Sr. sighed as he did not have the heart to reject such a desperate favor from Gloria. Then, Daniel left with Gloria. Mr. Johnston Sr. frowned and looked at Jared. How could you not tell me about this earlier? NarrativeNook.com. Why did you make such a risky move? Jared looked back at him. I just wanted to give Nicole some reassurance, so that she could marry me without having to worry about anything. However, he would never have expected that very decision to cause him to lose Nicole forever. Mr. Johnston Sr.'s eyes turned cold as he said flatly, I've sent people to search for Nicole too, and I've talked to the Riddle family about it. We're looking for clues along the coast of Romania, but we couldn't get anything so far. Jared noticed that something was not right. At least her body isn't found yet. To some extent, that was considered good news to him. Yeah. Mr. Johnston Sr. heaved a long sigh before he continued talking to Jared. However, he knew that it was impossible to change Jared's mind, so he agreed with him to go to Romania. Jared boarded the plane. He had high hopes that he would see Nicole again. However, he was not expecting that the search would take him 5 years. 5 years later, a graceful and imposing woman got out of the plane with an air of arrogance at the airport of San Giotto. She was approached by a man as soon as she stepped outside. Miss Nikki. Nikki looked over and saw the man who would follow her every time she went aboard, Ian Neal. Nikki was not expecting that Leo would send him to pick her up at all. Miss Nikki, the car's over there. Nikki nodded and went into the car with Ian. Ian started the car and reported to Nikki, I've located where the little man is. He's here for a hacking contest, but his entry was rejected because he's too young. He's at Lance Hotel now. How dare this little brat sneak out behind my back? I'm going to teach him a lesson when I see him later. Nikki had no idea what sin she committed that led to her having such a wicked child. Her son actually tricked a newly hired nanny to bring him here. Leo told her that she had enemies here and that she should not step onto the land of Hustuaberg without any specific reason. However, she had to come here for that little brat because she knew very well that only she would be able to take him away. She had no other choice. We only have 2 hours to get him out of here. Yes, Miss Nikki. Ian nodded seriously. Very soon, they arrived at Lance Hotel. Ian looked at the GPS tracker on his phone and led Nikki to a room. Then, Ian knocked on the door. However, there was no sound at all inside. Nana. He called out to the nanny, but there was no one in the room. Ian noticed that something was wrong, so he immediately called the front desk. However, Nikki already knew what was happening at that time. Save it. I'm sure that the little brat found out about the GPS and left his phone here. Then, she turned on her electronic watch. Nike was not surprised that he did that. He was her son, after all. And at that time, Nikki had already located where the nanny's phone was. Where's this place? Nikki zoomed into the map and showed it to Ian. Ian was stunned. This is the contest venue. Ian could not figure out why Nikki's son would still be there after his entry was denied. Nikki's gaze darkened. He would definitely watch the contest even if he couldn't participate in it. Did you think that he'd just wait here? It was all her fault for hacking every day during her pregnancy. She was the reason her son was so talented and could start coding at just the age of 2. Also, her son had made exceptional progress in the past 2 years, which made him known among the hunters. His biggest dream at that time was to squeeze himself into the top 10 on the leaderboard so that he could catch up to Nikki, who was ranked 6th. Nikki was surprised that her son would utilize his knowledge to use it against her. It was not easy being a mother. Let's get going now. Half an hour had passed, and she needed to leave this land within 2 hours. Sure. Ian nodded and quickly took Nikki to the contest venue. There were many types of hacking contests, but the most prestigious one would always be held in San Joto, Hustruaberg. Rumor had it that many remarkable hackers appeared in this hacking contest here. It was even said that 2 hackers who ranked 1st and 2nd on the leaderboard once battled each other here 5 years ago. Unfortunately, she had lost all memories from 5 years ago. She had never been to or witnessed such a grand event, but she used to imagine taking part in this contest throughout the 5 years. However, she was ambushed right on the first year she came to participate, and lucky enough, Leo's men made it here just in time to save her. She only found out that she had a lot of enemies in Hustruaberg, so she never set foot in this land ever since and had been living on an island near the border of Romania. She would never have returned here if it was not to bring the little brat back. She would never have witnessed such a grand event too. She was somewhat stunned when she looked at the contest venue that could fit several thousand in the audience. The economic capability of Hustruaberg is impressive. To be organizing a hacking contest on this scale. Nikki put on a pair of sunglasses and a jacket before entering the venue in a low-key manner. She could not help but be amazed by the magnificent scene before her eyes. For some reason, she felt like staying a little longer. Ian looked at Nikki and said, "Miss Nikki, wait for me here. I'll go look for the little man." "Oh, all right then," Nikki responded. Nikki initially wanted to find her son, but she found it difficult to move away from the exciting duel in the center of the arena. Is it déjà vu? Why is this scene so familiar? She wondered. Nikki could not help but stand still, somewhat dazed, but with a sense of familiarity. Afraid of blocking others' view, she found a place and gradually sat down. In the middle of the arena, it seemed that they had reached the final stage of the competition. People were discussing the competition. Preston seems powerful. He's ranked 10th on the Hunters leaderboard now. It's no use. Zeke is in 1st place. The last time he lost was 5 years ago, and to the previous 1st place, Lucifer. Unexplainably, the name Lucifer struck a chord in Nikki's heart. This name flashed a scene of memories in her mind for a fleeting moment. Nikki felt short of breath and turned to look at the people on stage. The big screen zoomed in on the face of the 2 duelists. Nikki felt that these 2 faces seemed all too familiar. What's going on? Just as she was lost in thought, a little guy suddenly clung to her leg. "Mommy, you're here to watch the competition too." Nolan pouted cutely while clinging to her leg mischievously. Nikki's attention instantly shifted to Nolan, clearing all her discomfort. She turned a blind eye to Nolan wooing and flicked his forehead. "You dare smile." With a thud, Nolan felt a bump on his head. "Ouch. Mommy, that hurts." Nolan pouted his cute mouth, pretending to be upset. Most people would be reluctant to continue hitting such a cute child. However, Nikki knew his appearance did not match his mischievous nature. Even if he was adorable on the outside, he was a devilish kid on the inside. "Cut that out. You dare take Nana away and take her everywhere with you. It's dangerous outside." Nolan could not help but pout. "I have Mommy and Stepdaddy. Even if I get in danger, I know you'll come and save me." Nikki's expression turned melancholy as she squatted down and whispered to him, "Nolan, We're already causing a lot of trouble for your stepdad. You can't be willful and make him so worried about you." Nolan widened his innocent, big eyes. Now that his mother has found him, he would only get punished if he talked back. So, he nodded. "All right, I get it. I only wanted to compete in this competition." "You're still young. You'll have plenty of chances in the future," Nikki said. Her manner relaxed slightly. After being at the arena personally, she realized that Nolan was not the only one longing for this competition. "I'm sorry, Mommy. I was wrong. But since I'm already here, can I finish watching the rest of the competition?" "This is the finals," Nolan begged with a pitiful act. Nikki looked at him with a face of helplessness. Checking the time, she noticed they still had an hour, while the competition was going to finish in half an hour. So, she might as well stay and watch. "All right, just half an hour. After that, we have to leave. Your sister is still waiting for us at home." Nikki agreed to his request. Despite feeling bad about leaving her daughter alone for the previous 2 days, she was happy to fulfill her son's request this time. Nolan quickly jumped for joy and exclaimed, "Yay. Thank you, Mommy." At this moment, Ian hesitatingly said, "Ms. Nikki, Mr. Leo has learned that you're in Hustuaberg and told us to leave when we find Nolan. Just half an hour more. Let him finish watching the competition. He might not have a chance to come to Hustuaberg anymore," Nikki said. Ian could not bear to refuse her request and held back his concerns. "Okay, I shall wait for you at the side." With that, he went to the back, allowing Nikki to resume watching the match with Nolan. At this moment, the competition on stage had entered a stalemate. Nikki observed the moves of the first-ranked player and mentally simulated how she would approach the opponent. Nolan eagerly asked, "Mommy, are these two really the top 10 masters on the leaderboard? Why are their skills so mediocre?" Two audience members in the front were instantly agitated upon hearing Nolan's comment. "What do you know, kid? Don't talk nonsense if you don't know what's happening." "I know, right? These two are the best of the best. Their skills are incredible." Aggrieved by their reproach, Nolan retorted, "You call this incredible? My mom is 1,000,000 times better than them." In Nolan's heart, he felt that he did not even need to mention his mother. He believed that even he could easily deal with them, without taking so long. "Whose spoiled brat are you? Where's your mother? Is it the one beside him?" The two audiences looked at Nikki, a young woman in her 20s wearing a coat and sunglasses. She did not look like a top hacker at all. Nikki did not expect Nolan, who said he just wanted to watch the game, would piss people off with just a few words. She subconsciously wanted to say something, but Nolan turned more heated. "That's right. She's my mom. My mom's in 6th place on the leaderboard." Nolan cried out. The people surrounding them were stunned by his words. "She's 6th place on the leaderboard? Is there another master here? Is it really true? Then why didn't she compete in the competition?" Many people were in high spirits, hearing that the 6th place on the leaderboard was present. Everyone wanted to witness the showdown between the gods of hacking. As if sensing the audience's commotion, the camera unexpectedly turned toward Nikki and Nolan. "There seems to be a commotion in the audience section over there. I hear that another god has come in person," the host announced aloud, without minding making things worse. All attention was focused on the audience section. Nikki did not anticipate the camera's sudden focus on her and subconsciously tried to dodge it. However, the camera still captured her face on the big screen. At that moment, Zeke and Preston on stage saw that zoomed-in face. Even if she was wearing sunglasses, no one could forget her, that face everyone yearned for. "Nicole." Preston stood up abruptly, forgetting about the competition. Gary and Ryder, who were in the spectator stand, were also stunned. They were thinking whether it was a coincidence that someone looked so alike to Nicole's face. At that very moment, Nikki sensed something odd. Many people were watching her, and her face was exposed on the big screen. Fearing that her enemies would come knocking on her door, she knew she could no longer stay there. "Nolan, let's go." Without a second thought, Nikki turned around and ran with her child. Ian sensed the urgency too and hurried to escort them out. Preston was the first to jump off the stage and directly ran in Nikki's direction without caring about the competition. Zeke also realized something was up and hurriedly followed. Now, the organizers and hosts panicked. "Where are you going? The competition is still going on." However, Preston and Zeke no longer paid attention to what the host and organizers were shouting about. That person had been missing for 5 years. Even if it was just a lookalike, they wanted to verify whether it was Nicole. Unfortunately, Nikki's car sped down the road when Preston got out. He could only stop to catch his breath. Zeke caught up and asked, "Did you get a better look? Was it Nicole?" Preston replied, "Very similar. But she got into a car and left." Preston had no idea where to find her. Zeke froze for a while, but then quickly thought of someone. There's one person who could definitely find her. Preston knew who Zeke was referring to. He took out his phone and called that person. After 20 minutes, Nikki arrived at the airport. She had been in a panic and scolding Nolan all along the journey. Nolan felt sullen. "I just thought, that mommy's really good." Nikki sighed. She noticed that she understood their strategies better than they did, and she knew how to block their attacks. She was very eager to try it out because she felt in charge. That was why, when Nolan began to argue with the other audience members, she did not respond in time. "Let it go. It's in the past now. We're leaving soon." Ian had bought their tickets in advance, so they could leave once they smoothly boarded. Nikki waited at the terminal with Nolan while Ian helped them get their boarding passes. However, her mind was still thinking about the competition. Nikki felt a sense of familiarity with this competition and the people involved. Her memory did not fully recover after all these years. It was useless no matter how many ways she tried to regain it. But today, for the first time in 5 years, familiar scenes flashed through her mind. "Are these people my enemies? Maybe that's why I remember them," Nikki thought. She did not dare dwell on it, though inexplicably, she did not want to leave this place. She was afraid that her enemies might find her. It was all right if she was alone, but she had to consider the safety of her children. "Ms. Nikki, here's your boarding pass. Everything's settled." "This way, please," Ian guided, already back to her side. Nicole stopped pondering over the matter and took Nolan to the security checkpoint. She and Nolan did not have much luggage and soon passed through security. Her heart started beating faster as she got closer to the boarding gate. When they reached the queue at the boarding gate, the uneasy feeling in her intensified. "Ms. Nikki, it's our turn." Ian gestured as it was their turn. Nikki took Nolan's hand and approached the ticket inspector. The ticket inspector verified their identities and information. All of a sudden, she felt a sharp gaze fixated on her. The feeling of being caught and stared at by a predator pierced through her heart. Nikki subconsciously turned her head, and her eyes met that piercing gaze. In that instant, Nikki trembled as if her heart was stuck by something. She stood still, unable to move. She watched as that tall man rushed over with a dozen men in black toward her direction. The tall man shouted, "Nicole." Nicole? What a familiar name. Was that my original name? Mr. Leo once said he had helped change my documents and household registration to avoid recognition. Maybe that's why this name seems so familiar. But who is this person in front of me? With so many men in black with him, is he my enemy? Nikki thought. The memory of the previous attack made Nikki's face turn pale. Instinctively, she placed herself in front of Nolan, shielding him. Wide-eyed, Nolan backed away in fear as the tall man approached. The look on Ian, who had already passed the ticker check, changed as soon as he saw Jared. Without so much as a thought, he tried to pull Nikki away. "Ms. Nikki, we have to go." However, Jared had made his way to Nikki and was forcefully pulling her into his embrace. "Ms. Nikki." Ian proceeded to rush over, but Jared's men arrived and seized Ian. They then bent Ian's arm and kept it held behind his back. The sudden turn of events roused within Nikki the urge to resist and subdue Jared. Jared was left feeling a little perplexed by her response. He had never expected the person he had desperately been searching for in the past 5 years to look at him in fear, even wanting to attack him. Jared was all too familiar with Nicole's moves. He immobilized her, pinning her arms behind her back. Her moves are still the same, but when it comes to strength, she seems so much weaker than she used to be, Jared thought. As Jared was still left in a state of confusion, he felt a sudden jolt of pain in his leg, and when he looked down, he saw that a child with delicate features had bitten him. "Bad man. Let go of my mommy." Jared looked at the little rascal and noticed the familiarity in his features. Could this be our son? Come to think about it, she was indeed pregnant when I lost her 5 years ago. In high spirits, he turned to Max and ordered, "Take this little brat back with us." "All right." Max nodded and lifted Nolan into his arms. "Nolan, you let go of my boy." Nikki yelled, now registering Jared as her enemy, her eyes filled with hatred. A glint of pain flashed across Jared's eyes as he stared into hers, which were full of animosity that was directed at him. It had been 5 years since Nicole had gone missing, but Jared had never stopped searching for her. More than once, he had even dreamed of their reunion and fantasized about how it would turn out. He had never, not even once, anticipated that Nicole would look at him with such hatred. His expression turned cold. He remained silent and forcefully dragged Nicole off, bringing her away. Ian was struggling as well, but his efforts were in vain. He could only wait for the chance to notify Mr. Leo about it later. Inside the car, Nikki and Jared were sitting side by side. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Meanwhile, Nikki was deep in thought, brainstorming for ways to escape with Nolan. This enemy is not easy, thought Nikki. Jared merely stared at her, his eyes still icy and distant. Nikki could sense that he was looking at her with an assortment of emotions playing out across his face and his eyes. However, as soon as she thought of Nolan, she decided that she could not afford to care or think about the man's repressed feelings. Her only desire was to get away. Seeing that the man was not restraining her, she seized the chance and tapped her electronic watch, sending a distress signal to Mr. Leo, who would soon dispatch his man to rescue her once he received the signal. Throughout the journey, nobody said anything until they reached a luxurious mansion. For some unknown reason, Nikki felt an intense feeling of familiarity washing over her as soon as she stepped out of the car, and in her mind, there were even more blurry memories drifting around. She involuntarily gazed off at the house located next to the mansion. Why do I feel as if I'm familiar with both of the houses? What is going on? Jared's eyes lit up with suspicion as he observed the look of confusion on Nikki's face, which made it seem as if this was her first time here. Soon, Nolan got out of the car behind them and threw himself into Nikki's arms. "Mommy, he didn't hurt you, right?" Nolan glared at Jared. Nikki, fearing that Nolan would raise his ire, immediately lifted the former into her embrace. "He did not. You can keep your worries at bay." Nolan finally settled down after her words of reassurance. Jared, on the other hand, had felt an inexplicable sense of anguish when Nolan directed his hostile gaze at him. Nonetheless, he still spoke to them gently. "Let's get in." Nikki did not dare to offend him recklessly, so she followed him inside. Ian was not present here, so she had to find a way to make this man let go of him. To soothe his emotions, she accompanied him into the living room. However, the closer she got to the living room, the stronger that sense of familiarity became. At this point, Nikki began to believe Mr. Leo, who had stated that she had once lived in Hustruberg. Perhaps that was why she felt such an overwhelming sense of familiarity with this place. Jared slowly walked over as Nikki surveyed her surroundings with a strange expression on her face. He then took his coat off and made a cup of coffee for her. Nikki regarded Jared with some suspicion as she looked at the mug of coffee. Why is this guy so kind? He even made me a cup of coffee. Jared glanced at her, asking, "What is it? Are you afraid that I've poisoned it?" Nikki's eyes dimmed slightly, knowing full well that this was a tactic to provoke her. It was then that Nolan chimed in. "You are a bad guy. We cannot drink your stuff." At that moment, Nikki gave him a cold sneer. "It's only natural that I'm scared. Since you've brought me here, there must be something you want to say. However, as a guest, I should be afraid of nothing." With that said, Nikki took the cup and took a sip of the coffee. The rich flavor profile of the coffee froze her for a moment as she sat holding the cup in her hand. This made me think, this is such a great coffee. She savored it slowly, as each note washed over her palate with a sense of familiarity. At that moment, she inexplicably found Jared to be more pleasing to the eyes. Noting Nikki's preference for the coffee, Jared could not help but feel a surge of satisfaction. Your taste did not change one bit. Although she was still glaring at him with hostility at the airport, this preference was unique to Nicole. Jared confirmed that Nikki was indeed Nicole. Thinking about this, Jared tightened his grip on the cup. The eagerness in his eyes was obvious as he looked at Nicole. Nikki was feeling uneasy under Jared's intense gaze, and that was when she slowly set her coffee cup down. She then broached the subject by asking, "I don't know who you are. We must have some connection since you've gone out of your way to capture me, right?" Nikki deliberately did not reveal their enmity and continued smiling. "I lost my memories 5 years ago, so I can't remember you. I'm sorry. But judging by how you've treated us, I don't think you're a bad person. Are you?" Nikki laid the dynamic of the relationship bare for Jared, hoping he would not confront her so soon. However, Jared had noticed Nicole's foxy demeanor, and was thus able to confirm once again what her identity was. The Nikki in front of him was indeed Nicole, but one who could no longer recognize him. The joy of reunion was tinged with sadness and melancholy in his eyes. And yet, it explained the reason as to why Nicole had not returned to him during the past 5 years. At that moment, Jared felt at peace. This situation was far more preferable in contrast to his restless nights of dreaming and longing for Nicole over the past 5 years. As long as he had found her, it would not matter if he needed to re-establish their relationship. With that thought in mind, he chuckled. "Well, if that's the case, let's get to know each other again." Jared's smile was full of charm. However, to Nikki, his smile contained within it a feeling that was unfathomable to her. "This is interesting. An enemy wants to get to know me again. What's the meaning of this? Does this mean he is willing to let go of the past and start over again?" As she was thinking about this, Nikki breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what happened, it was best to appease this man to protect her child and ensure her own safety. Could you perhaps release my companion?" Nikki asked. She and Nolan were safe now, but Nikki could not predict how Jared would treat Ian. However, Jared was naturally willing to accommodate any of her requests. "Sure. However, he can't stay by your side," Jared cautiously informed, squinting his eyes. Nicole had disappeared for 5 years without a trace, and Jared could not find her no matter what he did. Yet, she had a companion by her side the moment she reappeared. Therefore, Jared had to confirm his suspicions about that person's background. "That's fine. As long as you let him leave in peace," Nikki replied. After all, Ian would undoubtedly get Mr. Leo to extract her once he returned. Therefore, it was only a matter of time before they left this place. Jared observed Nikki, unable to put a finger on what she was planning. He then looked at Nolan's vigilant eyes. Not wanting to frighten him, Jared turned to Nikki. "You should get some rest first. We can talk later after you and the child have rested." "Thank you." Nikki sighed once Jared had gotten off her back. The servants led Nikki and Nolan to the room upstairs, while Jared watched her until her room door had closed. Max went on to inform Jared, "Mr. Johnston, did Miss Nicole lose her memories?" Max was just rejoicing, happy for Jared, as he had finally found her. However, to his surprise, Nicole had lost her memories. Jared was still smiling, seemingly in a very good mood. "That doesn't matter. You should look into the guy who was with her. Check where she lived for these past 5 years. Oh, and one more thing. Try to check that little boy's DNA." Max was left feeling a little confused by that request. "Are you suspecting something?" Jared brushed off Max's question. He was the only one who knew that Nicole had left while she was still pregnant at that time. Judging by the little guy's age and the similarities between the boy's eyebrows and his own, Jared trusted his intuition. Upstairs, the mother and son duo proceeded to take a rest in the bedroom. As she walked into the clean bedroom, Nikki had a hunch that it had been meticulously taken care of. However, she was utterly confused, and did not understand the reason as to why the man would let her live in such a room. Nolan saw a computer in the room and climbed up on the chair to turn it on. In response, Nikki frowned at Nolan's actions. "Why did you turn the computer on?" Nolan replied, "To inform stepdad, of course. Besides, I can also find out who this guy is." In his mind, Nolan was wondering, "I have to figure out who this guy is, since he dared to capture Mommy and I." Nikki smiled. "Not bad. Well then, you can take the job. I'll just take a break." It's nice to have such a clever son, Nikki thought as she leaned on the bed frame, knowing she had nothing to worry about. Then, she closed her eyes and replayed the scene where she had met Jared at the airport. Her eyes widened at an instant. Was this an illusion? Nikki's eyes were filled with shock and hurt. Furthermore, it did not take Nolan long to glean and uncover some information about Jared. No wonder Jared had the guts to arrest him. He's a business giant in San Joto and a well-known figure in both the dark web and in the real world. At that moment, Nikki could not help but open her eyes while murmuring, "No wonder your godfather mentioned that he wouldn't let me return to Hustuaberg. I didn't think they'd be this powerful." Nikki could recall Leo saying, "If they hunt her down, it will most likely be his doing. For a person who wants me gone, he can't be this merciless to someone who has suffered amnesia and is carrying a child. But who knows when he might turn against us again. For now, I guess running away is all we can do." As he heard his mom's words, Nolan said, "Mommy, if the enemy is so powerful, aren't you done for?" Nikki gave him a blank look in return. "You rascal. Shut up. Stop jinxing it." Deep down, Nicole knew that the situation was a sticky one, but she had to remain calm nonetheless. "Jinxing? Well, jinxing it is then. It's a good thing you brought me along. I can help you teach that guy a lesson." Nolan quickly slammed the enter key once he had spoken. Having a terrible feeling about this, Nikki turned to probe Nolan at once. "Nolan Riddle, what did you do?" By the time Nikki reached the computer, it was already too late. She looked at it, noticing that Nolan had done something to quickly invade the system. She was taken aback by that, and quickly pushed Nolan to the side, whereupon she started to recall their steps. "It's pointless. By the time you unlock it, it'll already be over as the system will be completely unusable." Nolan smiled. Nikki became extremely anxious. How could he be doing stupid things like this to start a fight with the demons? "Nolan Riddle, are you insane? Do you even know that we are in the hands of the devil right now? Do you have a death wish? How dare you provoke him?" she yelled. However, the boy was still unapologetic. "I was just teaching him a lesson. So don't worry about him finding out about it." Nolan then pursed his lips proudly. Not wanting to further the argument, she attempted to breach Nolan's defense system before shutting his offensive protocols down. It's indeed such a shame. Even the mighty Johnston Group system has collapsed with no hope of restoration. Nikki said, feeling her wrinkles deepening. "This silly son. I have spoiled him too much. I cannot believe he would do such a damn thing. Lord, how could I make this up?" she asked herself. An hour later, at the Johnston Group headquarters, Jared hurried over, asking, "What's going on? Why did our system crash?" The entire IT department lowered their heads, before the leader compelled himself to speak up. "Mr. Johnston, we have encountered an unprecedented hacker attack. We've never witnessed such an untraceable attack before, the scale of which can be compared to the one from 5 years ago. This time around it's even more disastrous." Jared's heart sank when the mention of the event from 5 years ago was brought to light. 5 years ago, Nicole was the reason why the Johnston Group system had been breached. Ever since then, the Johnston Group had been using the defense system Nicole had made, which nobody was able to crack. However, today was the day someone managed to do it. Was this a coincidence? It's also the same day she came back. He wondered. Once Jared had thought about it, he immediately commanded, "Let's head out. I'll find someone who can reformat the entire system, while you guys can just keep the system up for the time being until we can get the new one online." "Yes, sir." The entire IT department scrambled to their feet and left. Max then asked Jared, "Mr. Johnston, do you want me to call Preston and Zeke over?" "Yeah, let them come over and help me deal with it first." Jared rubbed his forehead to ease his headache, his mind brimming with thoughts about Nicole. "I'll leave it to you. I'll head back first," Jared said, wanting to return home and set the record straight once and for all. Nikki was praying that the devil would not come after her, but at that moment, as if he had heard her prayers, her doorbell rang. This made her very nervous. She calmly walked over and opened the door, unable to stop herself from giving Jared a gentle smile the second they saw one another. "Mr. Johnston, what can I do for you?" Jared stared at Nicole, and all of his concerns immediately went out of the window the instant he caught sight of her face. How can I get mad at her after 5 years of not seeing her? Jared peeked at the laptop on the table behind Nicole and pretended to be calm. "There was an attack on my company's system earlier. Do you happen to know about this?" Nikki immediately shot her sleeping son a glance. That little boy has really caused a great deal of trouble. Look at him, sleeping so peacefully after stuffing himself full and leaving me, his mother, to deal with the mess he has made. Nikki felt a sense of despair knowing that Jared had come all the way to find her. Even if she were to stall, Jared could still get someone to track the IP address down. Thus, Nikki gritted her teeth and said, "It was me. I can't say this was done by my son now, can I?" she thought. Jared frowned. "So it really was you?" Other than Nicole, there is nobody else capable of cracking her own system. Jared sighed, unable to stop himself from asking, "Why?" Then, he unconsciously took a step forward, approaching Nicole with an intimidating presence. The sudden move prompted Nikki to instinctually back away until she was cornered. This dude is way too intimidating. It's a misunderstanding. I will find a way to fix it. I'll make you a new system, if you don't mind, Nikki blurted out. I guess I can only use this way to appease the devil himself. I mustn't do anything to piss him off, she strategized. However, at this time, Jared was already so close to Nicole that he could catch the scent of her hair on his nose. She still uses the same shampoo as before. The fragrance on her entire body. Gosh, I've missed it so much for the past 5 years, Jared thought to himself, unable to restrain himself. Then, he placed his hands on the wall behind her, locking her in position. So, is that it? How do you think you can make up for the losses I've suffered today? Jared asked in a low voice. Seeing this, Nikki felt that she was damned. This man is so damn charming. I must be going crazy. How can I find my adversary so attractive? Though I can't remember what beef I had with him before. I can't allow him to harass me like this. With that thought in mind, she instinctively raised her knee, driving it up onto his crotch. Ouch. Jared roared in pain, not expecting Nicole to do such a thing to him. His face immediately turned red. You. I can't believe this girl would hit me, he fumed. Nikki quickly took the opportunity to duck away from him, before turning around and saying, How much is your loss? I'll wire you the money. Though Nikki loved her money very much, she would not easily give it away like that. Meanwhile, Jared was bright red, cowering in pain with both hands on his crotch. Do you think I am strapped for cash? Does she really think that I am asking her for money? He thought. Well, then it's impossible that you don't have women fawning over you, she argued. I mean, he's a desirable bachelor anyway, so how can he not have women fawning over him? She asked herself. Who said I have women fawning over me? Jared was angry as he glared at her. After 5 long years, I've never thought she would be able to say such things to me. Nikki was taken aback. What is happening? Does that mean he doesn't have women pursuing him? No, it can't be.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.